What's up guys, it's Town here. In today's video we're going to be going over how me and my duo performed in the Duo Cash Cup. But before I get into this video guys, if you do enjoy my content or find what I'm telling you helpful, please drop a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on post notifications. Also, if you wish to support me in another way, use code TALENT.FN in the Fortnite item shop, #ad. Without further ado, let's just jump right in. Alright, game 1 we decided to drop Tilted, and this was due to the fact that we started an hour late with my teammate having work. Now, we had some success here in the Somerset Cup. Unfortunately, it really did not repeat in the Duo Cash Cup. We ended up getting a couple eliminations, and unfortunately ended up kind of choking this engagement against the opponent that actually killed my teammate. And eventually what happens is I run out of mats and then die to a duo. Despite doing a significant amount of damage to most of the teams there, we only came away with a couple of points. I'm going to chalk this up to really kind of having a poor plan at Tilted. We hadn't really practiced anything other than landing at L's, and we realized early on there just isn't enough loot to sustain this throughout an entire tournament. In my opinion, Tilted is usually a pretty good spot. However, I don't believe we're good enough fighters as a team yet to really dominate this spot. So in game number 3 we're going to switch it up, but for the first 2 games we do land at Tilted. Game number 3, we decide to drop Reality Falls, a place that we are incredibly comfortable at landing at from Arena. Probably the place that I have landed the most in all of Chapter 3 combined. I land here almost every game, and Taco is pretty familiar with it as well. And this led to some instant success. He had an excellent drop for the Tree of Life, got a couple of knocks early on, and we end up leaving, I believe, Reality with 5 kills. Even though the teammate got knocked, I cleaned up the kill. There could have been a little bit better communication in this fight. I did not know that he went down. We had both started up on top of the cave. He went down and started initiating a fight, and so that is something also I feel throughout the entire tournament that we definitely need to work on, just kind of communicating our plays and our ideas. And overall we come out of Reality with 5 kills and we're looking good. Now we hear a reboot van in the background kind of towards where Chair and Old Divot are, and we make the push. And again, more of this communication. I did not know my teammate had 0 shield going into this fight, and we get a free knock on the opponent that reboots. But unfortunately what ends up happening is the Greasy team comes in third party, as well as hearing that reboot van, thinking the same thing that we are thinking, which is free points. We get third partied. We don't have a lot of mats. We end up getting in the same box, and again this kind of communication issue comes up. He leaves the box. I think he's staying in, even though he kind of ran in front of my face. I get one pump to the back. I wanted to get my shield off and hold there for a little bit. He did drop me some mats as well, so we were kind of split in shambles, and then unfortunately we just end up getting taken out by that third party. But again, we're going to stick with it in Reality Falls for the rest of the tournament. Game number 4, we're back at Reality Falls again, and we're already off to a better start than we are in Tilted. I land early, get a gun, and actually wipe a duo by myself. Now, I run my loot path, but unfortunately this kind of brings up the next portion that I thought that we struggled with, is distance between each other. Now what ends up happening is Taco goes up on a zip line and kind of runs into 2 duos. We did know that one duo was there. Another duo had came in more from the ocean side towards the back side of the POI, and unfortunately he ends up just getting picked off, and there's nothing I could do to help or support him. And so we decided, hey, after this tournament, let's get some designated loot paths if we're gonna make this our drop spot. That way we can be close enough to have our own loot, but also not far away enough to where we can't support each other if we get jumped on. So what ends up happening is Taco ends up getting taken out. I'm in a 1v1 situation, and unfortunately I've already used quite a bit of materials, and I end up getting eliminated once again, even though doing a good amount of damage to the opponent. One thing I always struggle with in Fortnite is finishing fights and hitting the big shots, that big clutch shots to end fights. But again, not what we wanted in this particular game, but we go again. Game number 5 would be our biggest entire success of the tournament up to this point. We end up unfortunately having Taco go down due to getting 50-50'd at Tree of Life. Again, kind of more the same thing. We're at these far distances to where we really can't support each other. Now, what I had to do was I ended up having to clutch up a 1v2, and fortunately that does occur. I get a bunch of chip damage on this one opponent, and I figure, hey, since he's turning a 1v2 into 1v1. I'm going to push it aggressively. I end up winning that fight, getting the knock, and using just enough materials to bait the other guy down. I aimbot him, essentially barrel stuffing with the combat SMG as well, and we kind of reset the entire engagement. Now we get Taco back up, get him full shield, get him some health, and then we hear a reboot at gas station. We fly on that. Taco does a great job of cleaning that up, even though I nearly die in this engagement due to not being able to place a wall and lack of knowledge, unfortunately, of the terrain, which I should know. So again, very bad on my part in that particular engagement. Now, we kind of key this one team that is running for their absolute life. They get in a boat and they run away. And then we kind of get into this unfortunate situation again to where Taco is a good amount of distance away from me, pushing fights up more aggressively than I am. And then again, I think that's something that we both need to work on, at just playing a little bit more together. Me trying to get to him, I get fried a bunch of times, nearly died to multiple third parties. Taco ends up luckily knocking one due to the fact that he also was kind of solo fighting, and then we end up picking that elimination as well. Another team rolls in, the team that had fried us in the back. Taco is going to do a great job of clutching up here. I go up, hit one for 100, and then miss the shot once the opponent gets into my box. Again, what I talked about, something I need to do is hitting more clutch shots and being able to finish fights even when, you know, I'm low HP or 1 HP. But Taco does a great job here. He ends up 1v2ing this duo. We go into Rocky, and unfortunately, I get rebooted, but get instantaneously pushed. I don't even make it to the ground. There was literally such a high build fight. I actually get spawned in the build fight without even flying, which was kind of a first for me. But I pretty much instantaneously die getting pushed by the duo. Taco tries to rotate out, but he gets fried by a team that's already in zone and the team that was pushing. But that was a decent game. I believe we walked away with 8 kills in a top 20. So not the best, but by far the best thus far in this tournament for us. Game 6 was again a lack of communication. My duo had to leave his setup for some reason. I didn't even hear him say that he was not going to be at his setup. I end up dropping Reality Falls, and he ends up dropping significantly later in the bus. This ends up me getting kind of picked off by a team that already had landed there. I get flown upon. I have no mats. I don't hit a lot of hard shots. I basically get pieced, and then Taco gets lasered, coming late to try and help me. This was just a miscommunication. Again, something that is an easy fix and something where we just have to focus up more on. I should have jumped late with him. I should have heard him say, hey, I'm not going to be here. And then again, I should have recognized that. And it was my fault for not hearing that he wasn't going to be at his setup and me continuing to jump at our drop spot. We probably should have jumped somewhere later in the bus. So an unfortunate turn of events for game 6, but game number 7 hopefully goes a little bit better. Game number 7 is kind of a perfect illustration of our giant overarching theme of not playing together. And we are going to improve on this in the last couple of games, even though we had been saying it in the call for a while. We end up getting uncon reality, so we have good loot, so we decide to third party Greasy and Key there. Now, unfortunately, this other team is playing super slow and passive. I look for a backwards angle, thinking that they went up. I end up actually running into another team, which I was not aware of, and we end up fighting 2 separate teams. Taco gets a knock on the original team that we came and third partied on, but again, because we're not together, he ends up getting picked off, and I end up having to solo fight this other team while the other team kind of gets their res off. I end up getting very, very low on materials, not doing anything much, and just basically getting taken out in the 1v2 situation. And this again kind of spoke to our ability to kind of not play together. We just again kind of are doing our own thing, and it's something that's an easy fix and something that we can easily work on. But unfortunately, we end up getting taken out here, and then we're going to go into game number 8. Game number 8, in my opinion, was the best overall game that we played as a duo in the entire tournament. We get unconned Reality Falls, and we get a bounty on a team that is very far on the outskirts. We decide to make this push, one, because again, we started late, but we figured they were not going to be basically as healthy or have as much loot as we did, and that was 100% correct. We go out to this little house, and this fight we actually played incredibly well. We get a nice pinch setup. I get some piece control on the back end, get a big white tag on one opponent, which kind of gives us the confidence that we're going to win this fight. I end up taking a back wall, cracking one, and then finishing off one, and Taco gets a finish on the weak opponent. Now we hear a reboot go off in Rave Cave, and we immediately push that. We end up doing a good job. Taco ends up picking up one of the weak one. We get the other one weak, and then we end up finishing that fight, but we're immediately third party. Now notice in this fight how we're just kind of playing a whole lot more together. Taco is absolutely dumping on the one opponent, and I go up and take care and get a huge amount of damage on the one third partying. Taco ends up getting the finish, and that opponent runs away. Like I said, in the previous fights, it didn't seem like we were playing very well together. In this instance, we're playing pretty much nose to nose, and this is allowing us to win fights and end them quickly. Now, we end up going in the slipstream, and we end up kind of making an awkward fight with this one team that just got out of the slipstream, and we decide to kind of slow down the pace and disengage, and notice how we again are playing a lot more together. We're not going for individual players, we're communicating well. Now we go into logjam, and what ends up happening is we end up getting taken out, and this is simply due to one, a lack of communication, and just not hitting our shots. You're gonna notice we basically get pushed from two sides. Taco goes for some piece control after I get a good amount of damage off, like 64. And then the opponent kind of comes into our tarp on the back. Now, I immediately switched that opponent because I know we have piece control, but I did not verbalize it, so we were, again, not on the same page. But at least this time, we are playing together and fighting together. I only hit him for 24, and as you can see, it gets very chaotic and hectic. We end up all three ending up in the same box. We could have killed him if I had some better shots. If Taco ended up pinning that opponent, he ends up getting double sprayed and dying in our own tarp. But overall, I still feel like this was our best chemistry. We're still fighting together. We just needed to communicate just a tad bit more in the engagement that we died, and we had a lot of piece control. That opponent really 50-50'd, and if we are just smart and hit our shots, we end up winning that fight. But let's just jump into game number 9 and see what other mistakes that we made. Game number 9 doesn't go as well for us as game number 8 did. What ends up happening is we end up actually correctly recognizing that an opponent has a horrible drop. Taco wins his 50-50 drop, and the other opponent lands a tree with no gun, and I get the free elimination on that. But what ends up kind of happening again is this very just poor distance between each other. Taco is very low in cave. I'm up top running my loot route, getting some mats and getting some shield and stuff, and then he ends up getting snuck up on a team, which we should have known was there. I did communicate to him, hey, this top chest is open over at Mushroom. There probably is a team lurking around. He gets essentially jumped on and gets 1v2'd, and this goes back to more of our issue as our distance right now between me and him is just too much in most of these engagements, and what ends up happening is he ends up getting taken out. I do end up getting a little bit of revenge. I end up taking one out, but of course what ends up happening is another team comes in third partied, and I end up getting taken out again. So game number 9, not that good, and just a very easy fix of just playing tighter overall. That is the biggest thing that we can do to see an improvement, especially in placement overall, because actually we ended up fragging more than I have in any entire tournament in terms of Cash Cup in the last 2 seasons combined. We end up dropping over 35 plus kills. It was just placement that was the issue. Now let's get into the final game. Game number 10 was by far my best individual performance from this entire cup. I'm going to clutch up at least twice in this match, and we kind of still have the same issues that we had previously. Now, we get Reality Falls unconned, and I believe we don't actually know. There's no reboot here at Gas. I'm over here looting, and there's a little rat sitting in a corner who does a lot of damage to me. This time, I actually play this correctly. I get back to my teammate to allow to give me some shield. When the opponent jumps on my wall, I tell my teammate you should piece him, and because he's just sitting there with no piece control on my wall, Taco does that exactly. Pretty much one pumps him and instantaneously kills him. Turns the basically what was almost a just dire situation complete 180. Taco ends up clutching up, getting that kill, and then basically doing a ton of damage to the other opponent. I heal up a little bit to go up for support, but teammate is too good, kills them both, and we kind of avoid a disastrous situation, which again could also have been fixed if we just play a little bit tighter. That is what I'm going to be reiterating as the biggest thing that we need to work on, as well as having a more defined plan for off spawn and not wasting early games dropping at Tilted Towers. Now, the next thing that happens is a little bit unfortunate. We go into Tilted, and it is just a significant amount of players. Now, I know a team has just rebooted. I'm pushing up this particular solo that I heard fly up here, and I'm going to make a stupid kind of creative retake-esque in wood, and what's going to end up happening is I'm going to get shot out, nothing ends up placing, and I'm going to die to fall damage. Very, very stupid of me. Now, Taco's going to get third-partied as well. There's at least 3 teams here, and we kind of bit off more than we could chew. We get a reset, though. Fortunately, I tell Taco, look, they're not finishing me. There's just too many teams here. Taco comes down, gets the res, which is very, very fortunate. Now, we run into more trouble here in Tilted. He ends up getting picked off and taken off. I try to support him. I'm at least close to him this time. I see him getting pieced. I only just don't do enough damage to get him off. I end up essentially trying to get out of there. I miss a bunch of shots. It's just not a good situation, not a good look. And again, something I struggle with is hitting the clutch shots when I need to. I end up just kind of resetting the fight. Now, I'm going to clutch up here. I'm going to wait till almost all the teams are all done fighting, and then there's one opponent. I end up actually taking him out, just spraying him up with an SMG. I get Taco back up, and we're kind of at least just making the most of a shambles situation. Now, after we take out this opponent in Tilted and get the res, we have a long rotate to top North Bugle. This is actually going to allow us to get a couple of just free eliminations on opponents rotating in that are not just really focusing the zone. Now, unfortunately, Taco is going to get taken out in this next engagement, but I'm going to do a good job of 1v2ing, and this could have also been prevented if I had played just a little bit tighter to him. That is, again, our biggest issue overall. Fortunately, though, I'm going to do a good job of playing around the awkward terrain and getting the pickup on this opponent. And then I realize zone is coming in, so I'm going to get out, basically reset the fight, fry the other opponent as well, and get a free elimination. Now, I hear that there's an opponent in the grass when I box up here as a solo, and I realize I kind of need SMG ammo. The fact that I had 3 kills without any SMG ammo is kind of just unfortunate in so many regards. But I do take the chance on this opponent, miss a bunch of shots. Thank God he was the worst literal player I probably ever ran into a cash cup. So I get a good refresh of mats, get at least a little bit of SMG ammo overall. And then we get into moving zones. Now, this is technically the only moving zones that we made. Fortunately, get a couple of good pulls early. And we're going to get some important just kind of individual solo impacts on the way to kind of extend. I'm going to slide down throughout this entire mountain and kind of just play slow, steady, controlled. I have a good amount of mats thanks to going for that refresh. But I'm going to get an important impact here to kind of keep extending my game more. I realize the opponent doesn't build around him. Crack him for 114, get in, finish the fight, and then we could kind of continue and extend. Now, I realize I have a lot of chug splashes, so I'm going to try and just do my best to play zone. Now, I've scuffed mechanically here, unfortunately. I'm trying to place tops here. It just was not placing where I wanted them, so I end up taking an unnecessary amount of damage. But I'm still doing a decent job. I still have a good amount of mats. Refarming, chug splashing back up. We have a total of 9 kills between the two of us, and I'm just trying to clutch up as much placement points as I can. If I can hopefully maybe get some impacts. Now, I know I tried to maybe make a high play here. I have the worst aim in the history right there. So after missing all those shots, unfortunately, I could probably do a little bit more if I hit those shots and maybe play for height and end up winning all of this. But I do end up getting a decent amount of placement, and I do get a decent amount of eliminations as a solo in this last game. Sit here on a wide peak. Again, as you can see, the aim was just not treating me well. I was playing really bad. Now, I get a good crack on this opponent, and I decide, you know what, I need to maybe look for height, see if I can push. My teammate does a good job of calming mats, and then I realize, probably not worth. And so I decide to tank a little bit. I have 5 chug splashes to work with. And I'm just trying to kind of sit here and just bide my time, bide my time, bide my time. Height is really high. I try to spray them out. Now, I crack this opponent. Don't have a finish because, again, somehow with the amount of kills, I keep running out of SMG ammo. And I'm just playing in tarps, playing in tarps. I decide to just drop my SMG because I'm just not getting enough. I'm just going to switch to it and not get anything out of it anyways. I tank a little bit here. I'm waiting for things to develop in front of me. I see this opponent drop down. I get an elimination on that opponent. Now, I could have played more for the mats. That's probably my biggest mistake here. I get focused a little bit from top. I do have chug splashes, so I'm just going to play a little bit now. I get to a nice clean layer, but unfortunately I'm second height, so I'm not going to be able to hold it for too long. Now, I'm the last. Basically, there's 2 solos and a duo up on height. And there's really not much I can do here. I get just sprayed from the top. I could have maybe just taken minis, but I don't think it would have mattered. But overall, a decent clutch from basically, I think, like 15 people. I ended up getting, as a solo, I think there was 5 eliminations and clutching a top 5. So a good solo overall individual performance, but not the best. It could have been better. And if I just played together, we'd probably win that game with double the amount of materials. And if I hit that, fry that kid on high ground, I could probably take height early and maybe get even more eliminations than I did. But overall, the biggest thing that led to kind of an underperformance, in my opinion, in this Cash Cup for us was, one, poor playing early, just landed tilted with not a crazy amount of practice. And as you can see with reality, where we had a lot more practice, we did a lot better at getting eliminations, having mats, having materials, and unfortunately just us not really thinking that through. Communication was not the best. There was a lot of times where there was miscommunications, even with little things like, hey, I'm not going to be directly back in my chair, which was very, very important in our game 6, which kind of just completely destroyed that game for us, me not hearing him say that. So just a misread on my part on there. And then just the fighting together aspect, staying together, like simple basic things that could have been corrected to kind of improve our Cash Cup. Well, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope that you did enjoy. If you did, please drop a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on post notifications. And I hope I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.